Okay, everyone, let's talk about the methods section. All right, so this method section is very structurally technical. There's like all the headings in this one, right? There's the heading of the section title, which is methods. And then there's some like other subheadings, there's some subheadings, there's different levels of headings in this. So we'll get to that in a second though. Just a heads up. It's very specific, so follow the example. All right. Okay, so basically this section is where you tell what you did, how you did it, and also the demographics. You also describe your survey question and your reasoning behind them. And you also explain your coding and themes. Do we actually do that? I think we do, maybe. Okay, we'll see. Usually coding and themes are explained, but now I cannot remember if I am making you do that or not. So we'll see. You and I will both be surprised. Okay, so what is not in this section? No participant quotes. So I guess I don't need to really, mark through that. Probably no research, probably no academic sources. You can, if you have like a small statistic or two, but you don't have to. Because, why would you need a statistic? So you have 40 participants, most of you, unless some of you have 10 participants, because SurveyMonkey needs to be spoken to. So, you have a limited number of participants anyway. And so maybe you can't, as we read in one of our articles, you can't generalize that to the world, but maybe you do want to give context and you want to know what the percentage of whatever is in the world. So, maybe you want to compare and contrast or whatever your, I don't know. You'll just have to see. If you will know, writing with your topic, writing this section, if some kind of quote or some kind of statistic could be helpful or interesting or useful. But generally, you're not quoting anything. So that's why this section is very unique, because in most of our sections we're quoting something, right? Okay, so here are the specific contents of this section. So your first paragraph will be answering these questions. When did you post your survey? So I created a survey on SurveyMonkey on this month, this day of this month in this year. And I posted it on Facebook and Reddit and different places like that. Like you will be specific. And how long you accepted participants for instance, what is the date that you closed your participants? How many participants did you end up with? Like all the details that we might want to know. And then your second paragraph will answer this question: how you integrated data and coded, except I'm giving you the answer. You just need to copy and paste this and make this your second paragraph, okay? And then number 3, you will have your third paragraph will be anything you did to protect the privacy of your participants and keep everything ethical. Don't repeat what you said in your methodology. But if you have something new to say about privacy and ethics, because our methodology was more philosophical and theoretical, right? So maybe we didn't say specifically what we did, or maybe you just want to summarize what you did here. And you can read the example of what this student said about privacy. Basically, he said it was not a concern because all the responses were anonymous and he didn't ask a lot of demographic information, and there was no contact information. And also for his project, questions didn't request personal experiences. So maybe yours did, so maybe you need to account for that, and that's something that you could say. Okay, so this is kind of the optional one. This is the example of statistics. Let's color code things. Okay, so this is optional. I'm gonna write optional, and you could put this statistic, wherever, or the information wherever you want. But again, this one is optional. Okay, so let's go to the rest of the non-optional things. All right, so demographics. There's going to be a section of demographics, and if you look down at this example, you have your first paragraph, your second, your third, and then you have a subheading that says demographics. And then you have a little paragraph, an introduction, that kind of talks about your demographics. Like this student said, the only demographic information requested was age and political party. The reason for the lack of important demographic information was because, they only got 10 questions and had more demographic questions. So, so there's some rationalizations, there's some justification, a kind of overview of, your choices that you made, your decisions that you made with demographics. And then you have your third level subheading, which is italicized and indented instead of left justified and bold. And then you give your statistics. You give your categories and your statistics, and you say whatever you want about that. And then you do that for each demographic that you have. And you see that this person had a source, so you can see why they had a source. But then you go to your quantitative, qualitative questions, which is basically, if you go back up here, this is what number 6 is, qual and quant. And then this has to do, this sort of grouping of paragraphs have to do with reorganizing your survey questions a little bit, because you'll want to kind of discuss your survey questions and their reasoning. When you do that, you'll want to group like questions with like questions, right? Like questions that make sense to go together. And your questions might not be in order. I mean, I guess there's a possibility that they could be in order, but maybe question 3 asks about the same kind of thing that question 8 is asking about. And so you're going to group them together. And that's going to help you create synthesis and help you create a more natural flow of logic and ideas. So it would be a good thing if you could look at your survey and try to group them into their own themes. This class is all about themes, right? So if we go down here and we see the example of that, so italicized and indented, so you have a little sentence here to kind of introduce what we're going to do. And then you have in italics and indented, you have your first theme. And so for this student, question 3 fit into talking about or asking about attachment to political parties. Question 9 was also asking about attachment to political parties. And then we have another theme. For this particular, themes will be unique to you, right? They'll be about your topics. This person's paper was about politics. So his second theme was general opinions of compromise. And so question 4 related to that. Question 10 related to that idea. You don't have to have footnotes if you don't want to. They just used them. So the third theme is effects of moral issues. So maybe you have 2 themes, maybe you have 3 themes. That's up to you how you want to divide your question. So, and then they finished their discussion of their survey with question 5 and question 7. And then if you do cross-coding, you can talk about it, but you do not have to do cross-coding, because number 7 is, okay, so do we answer, how did you code in the themes and codes that came up? Did we really do that? I don't know if we really do that or not. I mean, I guess we did not do this. Okay, so, I'm just going to delete it, because I don't think that we're doing that. Okay, so, I'm trying to make this as simple as possible, right? Okay, so 1 through 6. So, I don't know. I think maybe I had at one point intended for us to do that, because that's what you do in dissertations, but we're not writing a dissertation, so I think it's fine. So we're just going to stick to this part, right? And so that's what you do. So I would, maybe read the example a little more thoroughly, and if you have any questions, let me know. But it's just, it's not a long section, right? You have 1, 2, 3. You have 3 paragraphs here. And then you have, your demographics section basically, and then you have your qual and quant section. And that's pretty much it. So I think that it should be fairly easy to do after you do, really you don't even have to do all of your coding, right? Because there's no statistics in the qual and quant. The only stats that you give are ones that SurveyMonkey already calculates for you, right? Because you're just giving the demographic stats and categories. Otherwise, you're just talking about what you kind of came up with in the very beginning of the semester with your survey question and the reasoning behind them. You're not talking about the results yet, right? So I would say that you could do this section pretty quickly after you've acquired, that's the word I'm looking for, after you've acquired all your participants, you've closed your survey, and then you just look at your quantitative demographics. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Good luck.